Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeanelle. Slade. Jay has the night off. President Trump coming under fire from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. This for his latest remarks on the events in Charlottesville, Virginia. Comments that tonight are being praised by the Ku Klux Klan. During a surprise news conference today, the president placed blame on both sides involved in the chaos. Brooke Silva Braga has the latest from outside Trump Tower in New York.
Blame, yes. I think there's blame on both sides.
A combative President Trump returned to his original assessment of the race-fueled clashes in Charlottesville, Virginia Tuesday, saying the blame should be shared.
You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now.
The statement won praise from former KKK leader David Duke, but lawmakers, even Republicans, expressed outrage. Senator Marco Rubio tweeted, "You can't allow white supremacists to share only part of blame." Senator John McCain wrote, "There's no moral equivalency between racists and Americans standing up to defy hate and bigotry. The President of the United States should say so."
Racism, bigotry, anti-Semitism of any form is unacceptable.
The president was also asked if Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, who's been linked to the alt-right, will remain in his administration. The president declined to say if Bannon would keep his job, but did defend his character.
We'll see what happens with Mr. Bannon, but he's a good person, and I think the press treats him, frankly, very unfairly.
Trump also questioned if tearing down Confederate statues would lead to calls to remove monuments to slave-owning founding fathers.
I wonder, is it George Washington next week, and is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You know, you really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop?
Several executives have recently resigned in protest from the president's manufacturing council. Mr. Trump said they can easily be replaced. Brooke Silva Braga for CBS News, New York.
Now, the president did denounce the alleged driver of the car who plowed into counter-protesters Saturday, calling him a murderer. A federal judge orders a halt to expansion plans at the Signal Peak coal mine near Roundup. The company was on track to expand its Bull Mountain mine, but a federal judge says those plans were approved improperly. In his ruling, Judge Donald Malloy found that the Federal Office of Surface Mining failed to take a hard look at the public health and environmental impacts as required by law. Malloy said the federal agency ignored harm to communities and the environment. The mine's expansion included 176 million tons of coal, which would have made the Bull Mountain mine the largest underground coal mine in the nation based on production. Malloy's ruling came in a lawsuit filed by the Montana Environmental Information Center, the Sierra Club, and the Montana Elders for a Livable Tomorrow.
The federal government was very willing to consider all of the benefits of the expansion, but failed to analyze the really significant costs associated with that expansion. And that's not the way the law works. You have to do both. If you want to look at the benefits, you have to look at the costs as well.
The mine is fully operational at this time. Depending on a number of factors, this court decision could affect some operations in the future. There is currently no impact on any jobs at the mine.
The mine currently employs 252 full-time workers. Dawson says in the coming weeks and months, Signal Peak will evaluate all of its options. Now, Hedges says this week's federal court ruling is long overdue and follows a similar ruling last year by a state oversight board that found Montana failed to protect water quality in the area. A Billings man accused of killing an infant in June denied the charge today at his first court appearance. 30-year-old Jason Badger entered a plea of not guilty in Yellowstone County District Court to the charge of deliberate homicide. Badger is accused of killing 6-month-old Christopher Hackerott. Badger was reportedly babysitting the boy the night before his death. Prosecutors say while Hackerott's mother was away at work, Badger dropped or threw the baby, causing serious injury. Badger said he was bouncing the boy at the Lockwood area home and accidentally dropped the baby. Badger did not seek medical help, even though he admitted Hackerott's breathing became labored and the baby did not wake from his nap. The boy's mother realized he was dead the next morning. A member of Montana Governor Steve Bullock's cabinet announced her resignation today. Labor Commissioner Pam Busey is stepping down after more than 4 years on the job. The Labor Commissioner oversees the State Department of Labor and Industry and is appointed by the governor. Bullock says Busey has been a driving force in the state, university system, and private sector to create a skilled workforce for Montana. She says she is returning to the private sector to practice law. As many as 350,000 people will descend upon Wyoming for next week's solar eclipse. Q2's Dustin Kleeman joins us in studio with more on how the state of Wyoming is collecting taxes from those staying in the cowboy state. Dustin.
Good evening, Jeanelle. With hotel and motel prices triple and in even some cases 10 times the cost of a usual night's stay, many have turned to Airbnb, allowing residents to rent out rooms to travelers. Now, to put it in perspective, how many are actually using this service, nearly 4,000 guest arrivals have been booked for the Eclipse in Wyoming alone. Hosts keep 97% of what they charge. Now, Airbnb will collect state sales tax on these rental properties and forward it to the state, a 4% tax that local communities will feel this fall.
Well, I can tell you that I know some of the local governments are very excited about it, but, and anxious as well. You just don't know what the unknown's going to bring. We believe we will see an increase in revenue because we weren't confident that all of the hosts under this Airbnb platform are reporting.
A staggering 83% of hosts booking rooms for the event are first-time hosts. Our Airbnb revenue will have to be submitted to the state no later than October 1st. Jeanelle.
Thanks, Justin. Now turning to weather, Bob, the last thing we'd like to think about tonight is weather, but you have a preview.
Well, we've got about another month to go until we get into the first day of fall, but I've already had a lot of folks ask me about what does winter look like. Well, the Farmer's Almanac has come out with their winter 2017-2018 outlook, and here's what it says for Montana and the Northern Plains. It's going to be cold, moderate snowfall, but not as harsh as usual. We're looking for brisk and drier conditions in the Pacific Northwest and the Southwest. It should be mild with average precipitation, kind of mild and soggy in New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. And look for wild temperature and precipitation swings up and down the entire length of the Mississippi River. New England's going to be cold and snowy, and it's going to be kind of wet and chilly across much of the southeast. Anyway, our forecast looks like it's going to be very comfortable the next few days. We'll chat more about that in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, heading into the school year, more than 800 local students will pick up a backpack already full of school supplies. With more than $25,000 from donations from Seneca Zip Trip, Spectrum Communications, and the Washington Foundation, the Salvation Army can make it all happen.
We never shut this down. We keep a reserve of so many backpacks so that through the year, if somebody comes in, they're traveling from a different area and they may need more supplies or they don't have any school supplies, then we can get them a backpack. So we'll do some throughout the year. Last year we did about 300 throughout the year.
Well, the Salvation Army will give out backpacks and other supplies at North Park on Saturday and all throughout the week at the Salvation Army booth at Montana Fair. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, for a young rancher, being raised in a barn isn't an insult, it's his biography. Plus later, for the next 4 years, Big Ben will be quiet. And in sports, Scott tells us which high school football team is suddenly forfeiting its season and why.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire and sports with Scott Green. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.